um, shared at all because there are no regulations on wine labels. On food there is, and reading labels on food is what I train my clients to do, but you can't do it on wine. So we guess. 16 grams of sugar, of added sugar, is as much as a glazed donut. So if you're having a glass of wine at night, you might as well just like kind of kiss a lot of your goals away, because you're counteracting all the work that you're doing by pretty much eating healthy all day. So that is one piece of it. And that's why I was kind of tasting sugar. But the more I dug into it, the more I realized there's a lot of pesticides and chemicals and additives in wine that we don't know about. So another health professional introduced me to Scout and Cellar. Scout and Cellar is a distributor of clean crafted wines. And the woman that started Scout and Cellar, her name is Sarah, is a level 3 sommelier. There's only a few hundred of them in the world. And as she was studying to be a somm, she would get headaches every night. She went away and drank for 5 days straight, only French wine, never got a headache. Came back, was studying again, first glass of wine of an expensive bottle of wine, and got a headache right away. And I resonated with that story because it was very similar to mine when I had given up wine for 2 months. And so she started digging in. Her family owns a winery, and they practice clean crafted stuff, but really she started digging into her networks to really understand what was going on in the wine industry. And what she found was really interesting. So I wrote this down, so I'm looking at my notes right now. There's more than 250 chemicals in any bottle of wine. 300 different pesticides are often added, 16 to 30 grams of added sugar. And all of that is used to control the wine's color, the texture, the sameness. So I used to really like Josh Cabernet. And I never noticed what year it was because it didn't really matter, because it always tastes the same. And the reason it always tastes the same is because they can control that with all of the additives, chemicals, and sugar to ensure that the wine is the same all the time. In addition, if you ever go to Costco, like I do, like 3 times a week, there's a wine store in our Costco. But when they're shipping wine, they're shipping it not in temperature controlled because they don't need to. They know that their wine is not going to be temperature controlled, but when you open it, it still needs to taste the same. So you have to put all of those types of additives and chemicals in. And I remember Dan, who's on this call, said, I'm going to show you guys, actually I'll show you right now, this really powerful visual of, I'll show you this. These are the standards of what Scout and Cellar insists on all of their wine. And if you look at this, they have to be grown with no synthetic pesticides. They all have to be organic or biodynamic, and I can talk about what that means. They're harvested from old vines, which is why they taste so good, because I have tried organic wines before and did not like them, which is why I just kept going back to regular wine. But their taste is so robust and so amazing because of the vines that they're using. They're not new. And these are small vineyards that have had these vineyards for some of them hundreds of years. They are no added sugar, 0. Some of these bottles have 0.05 grams of residual sugar in the entire bottle. And that is compared to most wine will have at least 16 grams of sugar in a glass. There are no chemicals. There are 250 commonly added, FDA-approved additives and chemicals in wines today. And so I remember Dan was saying he brought this card really to like a wine shop to say, what wines do you have that could do any of these things? And there were none. And most of them you're not going to know about because they don't have to say any of this on their labels, right? They don't have to tell you about any of these things.
Yeah, Gary, I took it to Wegmans. I took it to Wegmans, and I took it to the SME there, the subject matter expert. I don't know if she was a sommelier or not, but bottom line is I went to her and I asked her, I said, hey, do you have any clean crafted wines? And her response was, that's not possible. There's no wines that are clean. We have organics, but
and of course the organic just guarantees it's from an organic grape, but they still add all of the.
You can add any of those other pieces, right?
But they can say it's organic because of the grape.
So bottom line, she didn't.
Which is why biodynamic is so important, because then you know that not only are their farming practices really like following all the a variety of theories around the sun and nature, but also there are zero added chemicals or pesticides or any of those types of things. Biodynamic farming also means they're leaving the ground better than when they found it. I love this too. Well, actually, I'll tell you this too. Scout and Cellar, all of the wines. Now, they don't manufacture they're not making all of the wines. They're looking for small vineyards, really. The winemaker that's a family-owned business and I have a friend who's a winemaker. It is very hard to get distribution especially in the United States, especially if you're small, to be able to make any sort of a living. And so they are also really supporting those small winemakers that are doing it right, doing it the way wine should be made. And they have 2 independent labs that are testing all of the wine to ensure that it's following their clean crafted standards. And after I learned all of this, I was like, well, no wonder I was feeling so crappy, because I literally detoxed my body from those toxins. And one of the things I teach my clients about clean eating is that our bodies actually produce fat cells to protect us from toxins that we put in our body just from eating all the time, because it's very hard to eat super clean all the time. So our bodies produce produce fat cells to protect ourselves from toxins. And we're drinking what I call now dirty wine every night. Like, no wonder we're not all like kind of reaching goals, but also plateauing. So if my clients are plateauing, yet they were doing everything else right and adding wine to their repertoire, now I'm starting to realize, as a certified nutrition coach, what was actually going on. So I think that this is really telling, but the real piece of this was, did the wines taste good? And I literally have not had a bottle yet that I'm like, wow, this is not good. Now there's some that, may not attract your palate as much as another, or if you're a white drinker, maybe the reds aren't as appealing to you, but the wines are all amazing when you think about how well they're made. The other thing that I think is really crazy is that grapes are the only fruit where yeast is naturally occurring on the fruit. No other fruit does that. But in almost every other winemaker, because they're using pesticides, they're washing off the yeast. So in Scout and Cellar wines, it's all from natural yeast that's fermenting and making wine, when it has to be synthetic yeast everywhere else because they wash off the yeast when they're using the pesticides. So it's truly grapes with their natural yeast that's on it that's making this. So I just find it to be really incredible. And because of that, the sulfites are really low. So a lot of people wonder what gives them the headaches. And now I've decided it's not just the sulfites, the high sulfites. It could literally be a variety of toxins, chemicals, and additives that are not talking to your body well. I don't know what could be, there's many reasons why you could be getting a headache. Sulfites could just be one of them, right? Anybody have thoughts or questions or anything?
And I was going to say, we saw recently this really great documentary on Netflix. It's called The Biggest Little Farm. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but it's this great example of what a biodynamic farm is. And it sort of like what the holistic kind of approach to the biodynamic farming and what it takes and how they incorporate like the whole ecosystem around that farm to balance it. And it's really a beautiful film. If anyone's ever interested in watching that, that's a great example.
I highly recommend it. I've seen it as well.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think what's important about that documentary is that those guys, the wife and the husband, took that that farm, and they had basically dirt that was dead, and they were able to rejuvenate that dirt to be able to cultivate and grow all their different all the things that they grew on that on that farm. And that, I tell you what, that's impressive how they did that. Obviously, it took a lot of money to do that, to get that where it was. But my goodness, it was a lot of work, but it was awesome.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That's about making the ground better, right? Like that's the whole kind of goal, is to make it better. I want to shout out Shannon. Hi, Shannon Howard over there. Are you in Washington? Where are you?
I'm not in Washington. I'm actually in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, in my parents' house.
Oh my gosh, you're all over the place.
I know.
I met Shannon in Norway when I used to live in Norway. How fun is that?
Yeah. And I just moved from Germany, and I was about 25 minutes from a primo natural winemaker who does biodynamics. So I learned a ton while I was there. I was very excited to see what you were doing, because we got real turned on by how amazing natural, and in Europe they call it natural wine, or, biodynamic, or, they have all these different names. I've never heard clean crafted. So that's a new
clean crafted is actually just from Scout and Cellar. They patented that word.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that about 4% of wines I'm sorry, 15% of wines would follow many aspects of what some people would call clean, but only 4% of those wines would meet Scout and Cellar's standards of wine. And Shannon just got a wine delivery too, right? Your first wine delivery there? Yeah?
I did.
Oh, good.
I got to go get some more out of the fridge.
That's good.
Yeah, I was going to my parents, and I was like, I'm taking a couple of these bottles because I really want to try these wines. And so far, yeah, very, very good. Very good.
And that's the thing, like organic wine that I've tried before, what I realized is they were like new kind of young farms that were trying to do something different. And what's so wild and I just think amazing about this is that these are like, it's expensive to buy vineyards with old vines, right? And these are kind of unknown vineyards. I'm drinking a Chilean wine, and I love that it's just like, they're from all over the world. This one is on sale again, which is very cool. Here's another quick picture that I love that I think, can you guys all see that? Yeah. Just as a really good indication of what's going on. And my husband surprised me and took me to Napa for my 40th birthday. And even those small vineyards are going to have a hard time meeting all of those standards that I just showed you in that card, because it's typically expensive and hard to be able to make wines like this. And that's the thing that I can't get over, is that the price point on Scout and Cellar is still within what you would typically spend for a bottle of wine. So I often say with nutrition, okay, if you're used to having a Snickers bar, make a swap and have a protein bar. Not exactly the same, but a decent swap, right? If you're used to soda, work on going to seltzer. Not exactly the same, but a decent swap. This to me is a no-brainer. If you like wine and you care about your health, this is like an exact swap. You're not talking about more money. You're talking about better quality and better taste. To me, it was like this hat. Not only do I have to do this for myself, but I have to make sure I tell everybody about this, right? And here's another piece of the puzzle that I think is very, very cool. I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek on something. So here's one of the wines that we're going to be trying tonight. You know how you can't find, when I shop for wine, I'm literally like, oh, that's a cute label. Oh, I like France. Okay, I'll buy that wine, right? Or I like white, so I'm going to buy this. Or I like Sauvignon Blanc, or I like Chardonnay, whatever it is, and I look at the label. So at Scout and Cellar, what I love is that not only do they tell you what you compare it with and what your tasting notes are, but they literally tell you what your alcohol content is. Most are really around 14%. This one's a little bit lower. This actually is one of the highest sugar contents you'll find at 2.5. Most of them are even lower. And they'll tell you the journey and the story behind the winemaker. One of my favorite things about going to Napa was meeting the winemakers and meeting the people that have been making this wine. And you can kind of like have the story behind it. So I think that, and the story of the wines that we're going to try tonight are very cool. The Italian stories here. And so I'm not going to show too much more about the wine because I want you guys to share about it. But what I do want to do is I'll show you very quickly how this wine is made. This is Sarah. I'm hoping this will work. This is Sarah, who is the founder of Scout and Cellar. She was an attorney, and she's now kind of living her dream of this wine. She's going to talk about the Scout and Cellar mission and what it's all about, and the process of what all Scout and Cellar wines have to go through. Now, when she says Scout and Cellar wines, it's not because Scout and Cellar is the winemaker. It is the standard of Scout and Cellar. And I think that's what makes us different, because you can get wines from all over the world, right? And get them a la carte or get them in a club. But a lot of organic winemakers, you're buying one label, right? And so this gives you the opportunity to try a variety of labels. So let's see if this is going to work, because I'm on a new computer right now and we're not sure. Let's see. And tell me if you can hear it.
Hey there, my name is Sarah Shadzik.
Yes.
I'm the CEO and founder of Scout and Cellar. We're going to take you on a journey from grape to glass.
Raise it up a little bit, the volume.
That's where the difference begins.
I'm going to try.
All the people that are involved in Clean Crafted are passionate about caring for our earth, caring for their families, caring for the future generations. And we get a chance to meet them in a variety of ways through our current grower relationships. And we become introduced to them by going to their vineyards, by breaking bread with them, by shaking hands with them, by getting their soil in our booths. Right before harvest, we're checking for chemical pesticides and lots of other yucky stuff we don't want in our bodies.
Can you hear it?
So harvest is
Yeah, but it's not great.
It's an exciting time. You can feel the buzzes in the air. The grapes are harvested by hand. They're harvested in very small lots, often at night or in the cool morning air.
So I'll narrate this a little bit. She's talking about how grapes are often harvested at night or in the cool mornings, because that makes a big difference in terms of what's going, like, instead of the heat, and what's going on and how you're getting quality wine. And it's really interesting because, you know, larger winemakers and larger labels aren't going to be able to do that, right? They need to do as much as they can, as quickly as they can, and as cheaply as they can.
Time of day matters during harvest because it protects the grapes. So after our Clean Crafted grapes are harvested.
So they're harvested by hand, and they're literally picked. All the stuff is sorted by hand.
So after the grapes are hand sorted, we have to extract the yumminess that's inside of them. So for white grapes, we press them.
So they're pressing the white grapes, and they're crushing the red grapes.
Very slow, and that ensures.
And then the fermentation process is slow.
The deliciousness that's present in the terroir, that's present in the grapes, present in the skin.
And they make sure it's slow, just so you can get all the flavor out of it. That's why these wines taste good.
So that it can be present in your glass at the end. So after wine is fermented, it's got cellar, then it's put into some kind of an aging vessel.
So then it's in an aging vessel, right? Stainless or barrels.
Neutral barrels or new barrels.
Variety of different types of barrels. And then this is where they test it. They test it twice.
We're all about making sure that we're delivering a Clean Crafted wine every single time. So now that the wine has passed our second lab test, time to put it in a bottle.
Second lab test, and all the bottling is all around environmentally friendly practices. No foil, because it's not necessary.
The independent guide.
All of that.
To Clean Crafted, whether for generations or that have become committed to Clean Crafted because of Scout Cellar. And our bottling practices are also consistent with our Clean Crafted.
And I think that was interesting too, when she was saying, she just said that some of the vineyards actually changed their practices so that Scout and Cellar could be a distributor of theirs, right? So maybe they weren't totally meeting all of the standards, and they changed what they were doing so that they would meet their standards from that point forward.
We bottle in lighter glass.
Light glasses, and you won't ever see foil on them either, just because it's added waste.
So now's the best part. We get to enjoy the Clean Crafted wine.
So now we get to enjoy it. Yay!
Pop the cork and share with friends and family and share the story of the deliciousness of the Clean Crafted wine. So Clean Crafted is the only standard that guarantees that what goes into the bottle and into your glass is free from any yucky stuff. So there you have it.
So one of the things that's really important to me as a nutrition coach is just making sure that whatever I'm recommending to my clients, whatever I'm putting in my own body, is as clean and as it serves me as much as possible. But I still love wine. And so now I know whenever I'm drinking this, that it's met a standard that is not going to harm my body. Right. So, and I also think now I'm a little confused, because I used to say wine is a carb, and now I'm kind of like with like 1 to 2 grams of carbs maybe per glass. Now I'm like, I don't even know what to call this anymore. So I'm still working on that. But I do find it to be a really enjoyable way to be able to have this, like, I don't know, like my indulgence is wine, but yet it doesn't feel like I'm doing harm to my body. There's I always say there should be no guilt anyway, but this is truly no guilt. So, thoughts or questions? Anybody have anything they want to add? All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How about letting us know what wine you're going to have next time so we can all go out and buy a bottle at the same time?
That is a good question. So we do try to do that as much as we can, but we're not always as, so here, let me tell you this. Scout and Cellar, because we're all small vineyards, often sell out of their wine. And so being able to plan in advance, because we need like 7 to 12 days to be able to get the wine, right? And so even Jen and I were just talking today, the wine that we were originally going to do ended up selling out. So that's one of the things is like, oh, we got to make sure that the wine that we have is still available for people to buy. But even if it's not, I guess you can still try wine and see how you like it. But we do have to get better at doing that.
And that was my fault, Carrie. I didn't tell him that you already told us what we were tasting tonight.
That's okay, because we had to like manipulate a few things.
But are you drinking Scout and Cellar, Dennis?
I am.
Okay.
What are you drinking?
Christine, what is it? She brought the
It's
bottle and
the
poured it.
Fiddleneck Chardonnay.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Dan and Shannon up there in Alabama, you're drinking an Adelante? Or no, you're drinking Dove Hunt Dog.
I'm traveling, and when I left home, I just got what I had and brought with me. And so I do not have the Chafico, but we have had it before, the red one, and Dan and I've had I think 2 bottles of it and love it. One of the ones that we're
on different nights.
Yeah, tasting tonight.
We've also had
But I love this. Is a great.
That is the very first wine I ever had from Scout and Cellar, and that is what sold me. So I always say I'm taking my dog for a walk when and sometimes I do walk down the street with a glass of wine and taking my dog for a walk. But
that one is very popular. The Dove Hunt Dog Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, and the Pinot Noir.
You have a Chardonnay. The
Yeah,
Rosé.
those are probably one of the most those are super popular. It gets really kind of introduces really people to the brand and gets them, and people love it, and especially the Dog Pinot Noir. Yeah,
I think
Chardonnay.
all of their wines are really good, and their price point is so reasonable. It's just really cool. So we're gonna try the Che Fico, and this is an Italian wine. And so Jen and Vittorio, who are amazing wine tasters, are gonna share a little bit about the label and what they're tasting, and it'll just make you like feel like you're right there with them.
Yes. So we're gonna start with let's show the bottle. Hold on. So first we're gonna start. So when you usually taste wines, you start with your whites, and then you go to your reds, or your sparkling, your whites, and so Pinot Grigio is a lighter. It's like would be after a Sauvignon Blanc. It's kind of in between like a Sauvignon Blanc and a Chardonnay. And this one is called Che Fico Pinot Grigio. This is not, we have another one that we wanted to show you tonight too. It's part of the Scout Circle, but this one is, I forgot, let me pull up do you have that thing, Carrie, that you can pull up really quick? The wine, about the description of this one?
Yep. Of the
Pinot Grigio?
The Circle exclusive one?
No, the one that we're going to just taste here. Okay,
Yep.
Oh, it's okay. I got it anyway. So this one's
okay.
This one's called Che Fico Pinot Grigio. I don't know if you can. Whoa, like the lightning.
Don't do
the camera. It's just it doesn't say anything, but it says Che Fico. And so then Vittorio will tell you. So this one is
Yeah.
So we're gonna pour this a little bit, but why don't you tell us? So tell us a little bit about what that says, and then and what Che Fico means.
So Che Fico is an Italian slang expression, which means how cool. You know, like you can see, if you see a really cool dude walking by on the street, you can shout Che Fico.
Would you really do that? Would you really shout that out?
No, I wouldn't do it, but you know, ladies would. Yeah.
Ladies would, like girls would go, oh, que fico.
Because it's for a man, you know.
Oh, so women are not que fico, only men?
Well, they are, but you have to say it in a different way, and that's a terrible word, so we don't want to say it.
What is it?
Would you say que fica?
Okay.
No, you don't want to say that.
Okay.
No.
No, it's a
so
tip.
let's just
Let's just leave that unsolved, according to Vittorio.
And so this one is a DOC wine, which means DOC means denominazione di origine controllata, which means that the origin of the name of the brand has been checked and verified. And so, you know, it's reserved for the best wines produced in Italy to have the DOC denomination, DOC.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's wonderful.
And so this one, this Pinot Grigio, you can taste citrus, you know, lemon, some peach taste. It has very nice minerality and texture. It's such a wonderful, refreshing wine that you can both have with a meal, like with fish, of course, I would say also with like Mexican food, with very flavorful vegetarian or fish food, and but you can also have it socially, not with a meal, you know, with friends.
This one is a little sweeter, so it might pair better with food. So so when you do taste wine and stuff, there's like the 4 S's. You see it, you smell it, you sip it, and then you sum it up. And so we always kind of like look at it and look at the color, and we like really love to like smell it. Like, what do you smell when you smell it? So we already know kind of what's in it, but
yeah, it's so refreshing. You can smell the citrus, you know, the lemon.
You can really tell that. And then, so then you want to try it?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's taste this.
Salute.
Chin chin.
Salute.
This one is so nice. And it has a lot of, it says residual sugar, but I don't taste it being very sweet.
No, I don't either. And that's the thing. When we talk about sweet wines, like this does not come across as sweet at all.
No, because it probably balances the lemon, you know, the citrus.
Ah.
It's so good.
Yeah, and this one is from the 15-year-old vines, and they pick it like right away.
What's the price of this?
This one's $22.
$22.
22 is really.
It's really
nothing for this wine.
Yeah, considering what goes into it and where it's from, and then what goes into the whole, like picking it by hand and
with cheese. This is wonderful with cheese. If you have a cheese plate.
Yeah, we have our little cheese plate. We always pair our wines with what we think is going to go best. And the one thing we learned, one of the other fun things is that, so you guys are familiar with Pinot Grigio, and then there's also the Pinot Gris. And do you know what the difference is between, does anybody know? The difference between a Pinot Gris and a Pinot Grigio?
I do.
I know, because I talked about it.
I heard you guys talking about it the other day.
Yeah, so the Pinot Gris grape is from like Alsace and France, or it's in Oregon, and the Pinot Grigio grapes are, you know, typically more grown in Italy. You can find them in California too, and the main difference is actually with the Pinot Gris, they're just very stylistically different, but the Pinot Gris is they let the grape ripen longer, whereas with the Pinot Grigio, they're often picked less ripe, and so it doesn't get as sweet as a Pinot Gris. So Pinot Gris tend to be much sweeter. They've got like notes of pear and nectarine and honeysuckle, whereas the Pinot Grigio is going to have the lemon and the citrus, and it's going to be less sweet. So that's like the main difference between those two, even though they're the same grape. So, but it's cool. It's really exciting to me to think of like you can grow something somewhere else and it's just so completely different because of the terroir and the
But
environment.
also when you pick it.
And
right?
when you pick it, yeah, how much the wine changes. And
Jen, talk a little bit about Bruno.
about what?
Bruno, isn't that the owner, the winemaker?
I don't know. That was for a different wine. I think that's
No,
for.
it's for this one.
It is?
Yes, he has been. I think that's his first name. He's been on the vineyard. This is the father. He's been on the vineyard for like his whole entire life. Never left the vineyard.
Is that the same one as this? Okay, because I thought it was a different wine. And yes, the owner of this one, he has never left. Remember that guy? Bruno? Yeah.
It's 75 years old.
75 years.
Old. And they've lived on their vineyard their whole life. He's never left it, never taken a vacation. And this is just he's like out there working morning till night with his sons. And it's really a beautiful story of just their passion and their love for bringing like clean crafted wines. And they got into organic farming. I think they weren't always doing it, but they got into it like maybe about
20 years ago. I think it was 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, and that in itself, says so much about who knew like about what a big deal organic farming was even 20 years ago. And they were really, I think, even leaders of that. And so, but that whole region is such a beautiful region too. It's cool. Can you describe a little bit about that area in Italy?
Yeah, it's cool. It gets all the breeze from the sea. And it's Italy, and actually this wine is interesting, the fact that it is not aged in oak at all, in oak barrel, only steel.
Only in steel.
And you can tell how, this makes it really crisp and sharp, and it doesn't have the complexity of flavors that other wines that are aged in oak.
Well, that's the thing, is like when you.
So this is a very refreshing wine that has a very, very clean and simple taste. It's very refreshing and light and nice to drink. Socially.
When you put something in an oak barrel, it changes the flavor of the grape.
Because it absorbs all the.
It absorbs all the
minerals and the
flavors of that barrel. Yeah. Whereas when you and that's the thing that's really, I think, important for people to understand too, is that when you ferment and then you age it in stainless steel, you're getting the true essence of that grape that was picked. It's really just that grape. Yeah.
It doesn't, nothing comes to add to it as it ages.
Yeah. And so that's what's wonderful about this. And the other thing that's wonderful is that, because they don't add pesticides, or they're not trying to, they're really embracing the flavors of every season of this varietal. So next year when we have this Pinot Grigio, it's going to be a little different even, because every season is a different, twist to it. And it'll be interesting to see what this year, 2020 has been. I wonder what the wine's going to taste like.
That's a really good point.
Does anybody want to drink 2020 wine? That's what I want.
We should just skip over all 2020 wines. No.
Right? They're gonna do doc-COVID,
Doc 19.
Okay, so we
want to go to the red?
Yeah, let's go. Well, do we want to do the red, or do we want to show you? I wanted to show you really quickly this orange wine. And then
This is so interesting. And Shannon, I thought.
So you can turn this screen off, or
So Shannon Robinson, maybe you can share a little bit. So this wine comes from our Scout and Cellar has Circle exclusive wines. And so Shannon, maybe you can explain a little bit about what does that mean? Because this is a little different than just the regular a la carte wines.
Okay, so the Scout Circle, if you join the Scout Circle, there's two different ways you can order through Scout and Cellar. You can order via a la carte, where you just order, whatever bottles of wine you would like. And I believe you pay shipping unless you get like $99 worth of wine, then you get free shipping, except for during the summer months, because they do the safe ship where they package with, you know, cold packs. And so there is a fee for shipping during the summer. I want to say it's like $11.99 during the summer. But if you become a Scout Circle member, which is the Scout and Sellers Wine Club, you get free shipping always, all the time. So even in the summer months. And it's amazing how they package it. And what's awesome about it is you can choose to either get all red wine, all white wine, or you can get a mix of wines. And all of the wines are chosen by a sommelier. And it comes with a little booklet for each wine that you can see. But I also like to get online and just look at the website because it gives a little bit more details. But, and what's great is you can choose if you want to get that wine monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly. And then what I've really am super excited to be a Scout Circle member, because there are certain wines that you can only get if it says Circle exclusive on the website. You have to be a Scout Circle member to be able to order those wines. But I have been traveling for the past 3 weeks, and I had 2 of my Scout and Circle shipments that were due. So I was able to pause one of those with absolutely no fee, no problem. It was so easy. The website is super friendly. And so I just went and paused it. And then another one of my Scout and Circle, because I have a 4-bottle and a 6-bottle one, and I was able to go and change the date on when that one would be delivered. So you can alter that so that it will not show up when you're not at home. So it's just really makes life a lot easier. And even in the initial phase, you know, when you become a member, there's no fee to join, there's no fee to stop. There's, you know, no penalty if you pause it when you're traveling. So it just really, to me, is a no-brainer to do that. And that way I get to sample wines that I would not normally pick, and I have fallen in love with a lot of them. So I think that's all. I just wanted to share that because I have firsthand experience from my travels this month, and it's been really, really helpful to be able to pause it and to also alter my shipment date so I wouldn't miss out.
Yeah, and so the wine that Jen and Victoria are gonna just show us right now is a Circle exclusive, which is a very cool kind of option if you're in the club to be able to get these kinds of wines. So, and to be able to buy those a la carte. So Jen, go ahead.
So we're freaking out a little
bit.
This
is crazy. Look at this.
We're super excited. Look at this wine. So this looks like a rosé or something. This is an orange wine. This is a Pinot Grigio, okay?
Why is it orange?
Okay, Vittorio will tell.
So this wine is very unique and very dear to me because it grows right next to where I used to go when I was a young boy to climb, you know, in the area around Chieti in Abruzzo. There is a really huge, massive
by the Adriatic Sea
that you can climb, and this wine is from a 35-year-old plant vine, and it's a white wine that's fermented and made as if it was a red wine. So they, instead of pressing the grapes and then letting just the interior of the grape ferment, which gives you a white wine, they crush the grape and they let it ferment with the skin, which is what you do with a red wine. And so the skin, during the fermentation, gives the wine this color in between, you know, red and white.
But it's a white wine.
But
so
it's a white wine.
It's so amazing.
And,
yeah, this is exciting. And so this is the kind of fun stuff you can get if you are in a Circle. And they have 2 of these orange wines from Italy in the Circle Club. And this is incredible. This one has like only 0.6 grams of sugar, so it's even less. It's even drier than the other.
It's a very intense scent.
So we're gonna have like orange, cherry, white flowers. It's gonna have a really, so let's try it. This is exciting. First of all, we're freaking out about the color, and now the smell. Now I can't wait to taste it.
Can you show the bottle again?
Yeah.
It's
here. This is really good.
It's a wonderful.
I can actually show it on.
With like fish.
This one
you
is
know,
the Kefico. You can't see here, but it's the Kefico Terre di Chieti.
Terre di Chieti. So Chieti is a very ancient town close to the Adriatic Sea in the central east region of Italy that's called Abruzzo. And it is very mountainous, and also it borders to the Adriatic Sea. And
Oh, I'm going
Chieti,
to show this as we talk.
this wine has an amazing scent and flavor. Just
Yeah.
so refreshing and tasty. This is great for with food, but also socially without food. And I think
This
this
is like
is
a great summer
this
kind of
is
like
a-
thing
Which
outside.
one is it, Jen?
The Terre.
Terre di Chieti.
Oh my
The
gosh,
one-
it sounds so Italian.
The one
And then
from
what
Chieti.
does IGT stand for? IGT. You know?
No.
Okay.
No.
So this is where it says Circle exclusive. So if you're in the club,
Yeah.
then you can buy this a la carte, right? So that's kind of, even if you've paused your shipment, like I paused mine for July, I have so much wine that I didn't, but I can buy this still a la carte, which is really nice. And for such a special wine, like to me, $23 is like, this is where when I go to, you know, a vineyard or something like that, and you're looking at wines that are like $40 and $50.
Mhm.
So, and then you just have this whole story behind it. 0.6 grams per liter of residual sugar. This is not added sugar. This is just the sugar that's left over after the fermentation process has turned the grapes to alcohol, right, to wine. So,
Yeah.
Jen,
That.
it's also vegan. Can you speak about why this is vegan and not all wines are vegan?
Yep. All wines are vegan. Not now. No, but all Scout and Cellar wines are vegan, which is funny. When I told people, they were like, we had friends for dinner, and they're like, "Oh, yeah." And Jenny says all the wines are vegan, and they're laughing. I'm like, yeah, they are. Don't you understand that? Like when they process and filter wine, that most wines, especially mass-produced wines, are not filtered, are filtered through animal products. And a very common thing to filter wine through is like fish bladder or casein or other types of animal products. And so you're getting parts of that also in your wine, whereas all the Scout and Cellar wines are vegan. They're filtered through clay or charcoal or other natural means, and not through animal products at all. And so that also makes this wine, Scout and Cellar wines, very special too. Yeah, because I don't think a lot of people understood that wines. Everybody I've ever talked to has no idea that wines are filtered through animal products. And I think if they did, especially a lot of my friends that are like vegan or vegetarian, would be freaked out.
Yeah, it's really interesting the way that is.
Yeah.
So I love this. This is the site where like you're in a wine store and you can actually know something about what you're putting into your body. And I think that is, as a nutrition coach, so important. So as we go, we're gonna now try the 2018 Kefico, right? The red wine.
The red one, yeah.
Love this wine.
Yeah, this one's really good too.
Yep.
We really
And
like
I
this
also
one.
love that this is like, you know, it pairs well with pizza and Italian. So like,
Yeah,
Jen, it pairs well with Vittorio.
it pairs well with my husband very well.
My
Yeah.
husband's Italian as well, not the same kind, like few generations out of Italy, but I always tell him I can drink this with you, Peter, because
Yeah.
you're Italian.
And this one is 50% Cabernet and 50% Merlot. And this is going to be really nice. These were handpicked from dry farmed vines planted like 10 to 30 years ago in alluvial soil.
And dry farm means that it's all water from the natural sources. So it's not, you know, any other water other than basically the rainwater, or the rainwater was caught and then reused.
And the alluvial soils means that it's like really rich in like clay and sediment, and this it's got a very nutrient-rich soil that these vines are grown in. And they were all handpicked and sorted before being placed in stainless steel tanks to be fermented, and then they were put in And then they had the same thing with the native yeast that you were talking about earlier. They don't wash the grapes. And then they're aged. It's interesting. Aged on the leaves before bottling, unfined and unfiltered. So a lot of times with these wines that are unfiltered and stuff, you're going to get something really exciting at the bottom of your wine. It's called these I think tartrates or these wine diamonds. And people think that it's like a bad thing, but a lot of times you can get like these, but it just really, I think it means that the wine is, if you see little sediments at the bottom of your wine, it's telling you that you think that it's maybe exposed to something undesirable, but it's simply I forgot what they were saying about that the wine is exposed to, well, if it gets low, they can occur in wines when like potassium and tartaric acid, both naturally occurring byproducts of grapes, bind together to form a crystal. And so that's why sometimes
those sediments.
The sediments that you can get at the bottom of wine, they're 100% natural. Yeah.
No, but that's what makes some of this wine special. And when you're buying mass-produced wine, and you'll never see that because people won't understand what that is. And these are like, to me, these are just special wines, right? Like they're literally made by hand. And that's
when I was little, I remember the old people in my family telling me to eat the sediments from the red wine, after they had drank it, because they contain a lot of nutrients, antioxidants.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember this, this old lady telling me to eat the sediments.
How did she actually say it? How did she say it?
Mangia.
Manja. Oh, I love that.
Jennifer, didn't you ask what IGT was?
I did, but
it means indicazione geografica tipica.
So there you go, Dennis. That's what it means.
Well, actually, it means that it's designation that they could bring in foreign wines, such as French varietal wines, in Tuscany, in the wines that are developed there.
Yeah, so it's indicazione geografica tipica. So that means that it means that it is a wine that's made only in a specific geographic location in Italy. That way.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So should we try this? Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is.
Oh my gosh, this smells good. What do you smell?
The scent of this wine is just out of this world.
Yeah.
It's so rich. It's almost inebriating.
Yeah, it's very. This one has got a little more alcohol, and it actually has a lot more sugar. This one has like 6.6 grams of residual sugar, but it's a very fruit forward but bold wine. So maybe it's going to be simple.
Must be from the Merlot.
Yeah, it must be from the Merlot, right? Because I don't think the Cabernets typically have that, or more bold. They're drier.
It's wonderful. This is wonderful, both with a meal, even a heavy meal. For those who like meats. This you can drink it with barbecue, with a steak. It's also good with chicken, I think. Yeah, but also with roasted vegetables.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? If you look at it, so like when we always are like kind of turning the glass a little bit to kind of get it to aerate. I did open this bottle.
It's very alcoholic. This one is
this one has got like 14% alcohol.
Yeah, this is a strong wine. You can see, look when, I don't know if you can see it, but look at the film that the wine leaves on the glass.
So that it just really shows this viscosity, like it tells you that the wine has legs, and
has
so
a
it
lot
has
of alcohol.
Yeah, and it's really nice. It kind of actually reminds me, does it of like a Pinot Noir almost, because it's very fruit forward in that way.
Yeah. And
if you've tried
cherry?
I think you're gonna see there's gonna be, it's a strawberry.
Kind of a sweeter strawberry.
Strawberry, balsamic, bay leaf. Yeah.
So this also socially, you can drink it without any meal at all. It's strong, so it's gonna.
That's how when I had this wine, I wasn't eating. It wasn't like, you know, we eat every 3 to 4 hours. And
Yeah, you got to be careful because it's strong. It goes down very easy, and then it gets you kind of.
It's very smooth. So, like a lot of times, I would say a Cabernet can really, you can feel the tannins, you know, sort of stick on your tongue or clean. But this one goes, I think, really smooth. It's a very smooth finish. You don't feel this like after kind of like biting of the tannins and stuff.
It's the purest, you know.
It's really nice
Taste.
And if you are in the Scout Circle, they have some wonderful Che Fico wines. Also, remember that one from Sicily? What was it called?
Mascalese.
There's a Mascalese.
Nerello Mascalese. It's a very dark red
Oh, I
wine.
like that one.
Yeah, it's very strong.
Yeah.
But that one is not for everybody, and it's more for like a meal. But this one can also be drunk socially, you know, sweet enough. This must be more expensive. What is it?
It's only 25.
25. It's not.
$25.
Yeah.
This is truly remarkable for $25.
Yeah, this is really good. I really enjoy these wines. We really enjoy Che Fico a lot, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I think that they have some interesting options. So, Vittorio, you said something though that other wine might not be for everyone, and I think that's one of the amazing things about Scout and Cellar. So, if there's a wine that you get that you didn't like and that you feel like was, you know, just wasn't for you, they call it do the right thing guarantee, and they will either reimburse you back or send you something else. And I think that is amazing. It's like this 100% guarantee. And when an organization does that, it just says a lot about their integrity, but also about how much they believe in their product, you know, for you to be able to say, I didn't like it. And they're like, okay, well, then we'll give you your money back or we'll give you something else. So I think that's pretty
I'm always encouraging people to try this stuff, give it a try. I mean, like, you don't know what a wine tastes like when you go to a liquor store. You're just going by the pretty bottle. You're going by what, you know, somebody's recommending. And if you can trust Italian to tell you what.
But, you know,
but yeah,
I wouldn't return a wine just because, you know, I don't like it. I would maybe return it only if there is something wrong with it. But for me, drinking wine is a cultural experience. You know, it's not just about what you like or you don't like. And so,
there's wines that don't meet my palate as much, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, New Zealand and Australian Sauvignon Blancs, I don't like. And there's one label that tastes very much like that for me in the Scout and Cellar family. But I would send it back because the Nest.
Oh, I knew it.
It tastes very much like a Kim Crawford.
Kim Crawford, yes.
Yes.
I just had it at a tasting yesterday, and it was like, I think everyone liked that.
Yeah, and to me, I'm like, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't send it back. I drank the whole bottle, but I just wouldn't. I won't order it again because I know that's not like I wouldn't order a Kim. I would never get a Kim Crawford. Like I stay away from that because it's just not what I'm.
Yeah.
Like my niece, for example, who's old enough to drink, she loves Kim Crawford, right? Like that's totally her palate. So I agree with you, Vittorio, on that. Like the other thing about the Scout Circle is that how many people will say, like I used to always say, I don't like Chardonnay. That's just not my wine. But when you're drinking clean crafted wine that is made the way wine is supposed to be made, it's amazing how your typical bias around a grape or around a certain type of wine actually needs to get thrown out the window, because you can have a Gallivant Chardonnay, for example, which is a Chardonnay that's a little bit more typical, which I love, which is crazy because I'm not really a Chardonnay girl, or a Fiddleneck Chardonnay. They taste completely different. So when you're in the Scout, when you're in the Circle exclusives, the sommeliers in Scout and Cellar are choosing the wines for the month, but it forces you to try things you wouldn't normally try. There are wines I couldn't even pronounce, I never would have bought, and now I love them. Like a Muscat Blanc, I never would have gotten that before. I never would have chose that, and now it's like I'm going to that because I love that white wine now. So
yeah,
you know, I'm not a wine expert at all. right? But it just teaches you a little bit more about wine, about what's good, and it's an amazing education on top of it all.
But I never was the Chardonnay drinker either. I got so turned off by Chardonnays. I literally haven't drinking them for years.
Because the
I
Chardonnay,
have not liked them anymore.
the Chardonnay that you buy in stores, they are just so commercial and treated to be made into a product, you know, that's basically grape juice it's like a hard grape juice, you know, that people can drink socially. In fact, one of the things I'm most grateful to Scout and Cellar is that it has made me rediscover Chardonnay, because I have always kind of disregarded Chardonnay as kind of a secondary wine that I don't care about. But the ones from Scout and Cellar are really very sophisticated and very complex. There is a complexity in Chardonnay that is completely lost in the commercial versions. Because Chardonnay is actually a very, very complex wine that actually comes from one of the best wines in the world, because the Chardonnay vine comes from actually Pinot Noir.
Yes, and I just learned that.
It comes from Pinot Noir, from the mix of Pinot Noir with an old white wine grape from France that now is extinct. I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
And that's how they made the Chardonnay grape. And it has a lot of complex, when it's really natural and not adulterated by the commercial process, it is extremely complex and sophisticated wine. And my favorite one here at Scout and Cellar is the Gallimard.
Me too. I love it.
That is truly amazing. It's like a white Pinot Noir.
Oh, that's a good way to say that. Yeah.
It has a really amazing complexity. It's like you're drinking really a white Pinot Noir.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing wine.
Yeah, it is. And when we were in Aspen in the beginning of June, and we had met some friends there. And when we introduced our wines, they were drinking our wines, they fell in love with them. But then when they went to try like other types or varieties, it was like, once you start drinking this wine, that's the other thing, is like, and when you try then a mass-produced glass, you instantly sense everything in that kind of mass-produced wine that you were like, oh, I never realized I was drinking all this. Like, it's almost like you can taste all the byproducts that are added to that wine. Like, my friend had taken a glass of another wine, and she was like, oh, it hit her like, I can't drink this wine anymore. And she like had to go like dump it out, because she's like, now that I've been drinking your wines, I can't. Yeah.
I think we have to be really grateful to Scout and Cellar, to the founder, because drinking authentic wine is truly one of the very few opportunities that we have now in the 21st century to really reconnect with a thousands of years old tradition and culture, you know? And there are many other activities you can do that allow you to do that, unless you go and read the Odyssey by Homer, you know?
Let's not go down that lane.
And
okay?
so
stick with wine.
The fact that Scout and Cellar allows you to do it in such an authentic way, it is truly a cultural experience, you know, that really reconnects you to human history.
Well,
it's very unique.
It is. That is beautiful about it. Also, is that so many friends of mine that are either diabetic or have been ill from it are finally realizing, like, I can enjoy wine again. Like, I'm not getting sick from this glass of wine anymore. Yeah. My husband's a diabetic. He can finally drink wine again because it doesn't have all the added sugars. And I mean,
she doesn't mean her husband.
No, I don't mean you, but I mean like my other friend's husband. There's so much exciting things about it that we can't say enough, and it's very exciting for us. Yeah.
And to me, the idea that I can drink wine that's made pretty much the same way it was made, thousands of years ago, it's really amazing.
Yeah, this is not a new way of making wine. This is the old way of making wine.
That is the only way.
This
of
is
making
this is
wine.
like going back old school. This is like, you know, this is how wine should be made, unprocessed, like just by hand. You know, those wonderful traditions that we just, you know, take for granted.
Hand picking the grapes.
I mean, everybody
you know?
thinks like, oh, I just want like the $2 chuck, or I want what's ever, you know, the closest thing off the shelf, or what's cheaper, instead of really like, well, you're eating organic chicken, or you're careful about your organic meats, but you're not really careful about the wine. You're not even caring about that wine and all that's in that, or the fact that every time you drink that wine, what it's making you feel like, or getting sick. And we can drink this wine now, and it's like you said, like I can get up in the morning and I can work out. I can, you know, like I don't have to prepare myself the next day, like, oh, I'm not doing anything tomorrow, so I can have a glass of wine. It's not going to affect me negatively.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It really is.
It shouldn't hurt you. It should make you feel good, you know?
Yeah.
And the fact that it hurts you, it hurts us, and then we keep doing it, like it's that own self-awareness that we have to expect more for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I also just can't get over the fact that I'll go to Napa and I literally have in my wine fridge $65, $75, $85 bottles of wine that I know do not have the quality of wines that these $20 bottles have.
No.
Like I can't get over that when I talk about that no-brainer swap. So, oh, I get to see Mel now. Hey, Mel.
Yeah, so we love it. So it's beautiful. There's just nothing more to say. Yeah, just
this
so distinctive.
This red wine is really a treat. I really recommend it to anybody. I mean, this fantastic wine for social drinking or drinking during a meal, barbecue.
See, Dennis, you don't even need to be drinking the wine to like want to listen to Vittorio, whatever he says.
Right.
I'm like, whatever Vittorio says, I will buy.
Right?
Every week, Jen and Vittorio do a Tuesday tasting, and I'm like, okay, I'll buy that one next.
Victorio speaks del verdad.
The truth. That is so funny. That is so funny.
We enjoy this a lot. Obviously,